This is State of Mind, everybody.
Yeah, State of Mind, where we're going to, break down all kinds of cool ideas, but the way people
That's the goal.
the way people think, and those states of minds that people get into, and
We're basically just going to talk about what we like to talk about.
yeah, 100%.
And incorporate, it's just
a little
about,
bit of
we don't really need to
ways of-
incorporate anything. It's just going to be, we're just going to talk about, I think the areas we talk about or the things that we like encompass certain states of mind. Obviously,
Totally.
everything you do a state of mind, but we thought we'd kick off the new year 2018 with just a whole new concept.
Yeah, 100%.
Before it was
New concept.
Smart Show, and now we've done a couple things and research and stuff, and this seems to fit a little bit better. I've been listening to actually just a couple days. There's a new stand-up comedian that I saw on Joe's podcast named Owen Benjamin, and he's like a 6'7".
Sounds familiar.
He's like a 6'7" like guy from where is he from? Like the Czech Republic or some shit like that, or some crazy country.
He's just from over northeast, upper northeast
Something,
area.
just some brutal place,
That sounds like
I
the
think,
Czech
and
Republic.
just the way he was talking and his perspectives on things, and how he's like super educated. He went to college. Both of his parents are academics. Like they're like
okay.
his dad's.
So
his dad's a professor.
Yeah, he's got some good family background.
So he's super intelligent. He has like he has like a degree in I can't remember what he has, but besides the point, he's a comedian, and so he's like really intellectual, and he's like talking about how people kind of like, it seems like people have forgotten like what words really mean, like what certain words mean.
Isn't that weird?
And they're getting
digress the word, the meaning of certain words. Like people just use certain.
Well,
things.
how people don't like how words are used, like retard and things like that, when really when really there's different, like the actual definition of like retard is like you can retard a fire. You can slow down the pace of a fire.
For that, but in the way we use it, there has like this,
and he had this story where he goes, I was talking to this girl, and he said the word retarded in the middle of a sentence. He goes, "Oh, I'm retarded," and she goes, "Oh," like he was like hanging out with his friend, and then she got upset because he called himself retarded, and she was like, that's kind of offensive, and blah blah blah, and he's like. So do you even know the definition of retarded? And he kind of like explained this to her, and then she's like, "You're a moron," and he goes, "Oh," and he basically he's like, "Well, the definition of moron is like actually someone has less than a 50 IQ, and so they're called a moron." So word's actually
moronic is, I guess.
No, that word's actually more offensive than retarded, because retarded doesn't necessarily mean dumb and slow in the head. It just means like you can retard a fire.
Moron actually.
So moron actually means someone who's under 50 IQ.
Oh my god.
So she's using a word that's more offensive, calling him a moron.
She literally just
and then an idiot. An idiot's the same thing. An idiot is from like the word idio, which is like someone with an IQ of 25 or less. So when people use these words idiot and moron and get offended at the word retarded, it's like, what?
Yeah, I can see where.
Especially when he said I'm retarded.
Yeah,
he goes, I'm so retarded. Sorry.
If you're calling yourself, why
would you be offended?
Why should you get offended?
Because of the word.
At somebody literally you calling yourself something derogatory or something towards yourself. I can understand a certain public setting if there's other variables like kids involved. You shouldn't be swearing around, being like really something like that.
Yeah, you shouldn't be obnoxious.
But if you're in just a normal environment with adults, and you just so happen to say something to yourself like, "Oh, I'm so stupid," just something simple like that. Nobody gets offended if you're just like, "Oh, I'm such an idiot."
Right.
I don't understand
and it's like
how
retarded.
You're taking offense. You're like, "Oh man, I'm so retarded. I forgot my boots for work."
Yeah, it literally means, "Oh, I was just slow at thinking. Like I didn't think to get,
You slowed down, and it means to slow. If you look it up, that's simple.
And he's like talking about how like people confuse Down syndrome with like retardation. Like they're not the same thing. They're two totally separate things, and like
it totally comes from that lack of knowledge.
And he goes, yeah, and she tried to justify it by saying like, and part of his joke was when people get offended, they try to reference it to like a personal life experience or because of like their brother. He makes a joke of saying, yeah, because she said that it was because of her brother's cousin's sister's boss's friend's person, like sister had Down syndrome. You know, like she's offended
So
because
going-
someone she knows along the line
So
has Down syndrome.
She's going deep into it
Yeah, and it
with trying to find something to justify
Yeah.
her offense to this based on an experience she's had.
right, which is by the way
And only one experience.
one data point.
Yeah, yeah.
So you
yeah.
can have 100 million data points, but then one person says, well, my experience is different. I had my experience, so therefore it's true. It's like, no, you're just one data point out of a majority, 100 million data points. So just because you had your one experience doesn't really matter compared to the statistical evidence.
That's definitely not very logical, because you didn't use enough of like, okay, I've had enough to show evidence to show me that that's the case. But she's, like I was going to come down to, she's simply letting her emotions override her judgment, how she feels about that particular thing, because she was basing it on an experience of, you know, offending someone who is less privileged, in a sense, that being born that way and being that way, you know, people look at that with a very emotional tendency, and I feel like that is where that comes from.
Which understandably, we have empathy for that person who's in that position. We want to help them and
like, he just didn't come out right somehow, and that happens. There is people that are genetically, like, look at Owen, not Owen.
And we can be honest about it. We don't have to be offended about it.
Mini-Me, what's his name?
Oh, Vern Troyer.
Vern Troyer, yeah. Dude's still kicking it. I seen a viral video of him. I don't know if I shared it to you.
He was on Trailer Park Boys, the new one that was in California.
Oh, dude, that's so cool.
He's like at a party. They go to a party and there's all these celebrities that are in it.
I need to see some of the new seasons. I haven't looked into that, but that's one of my favorite shows, because it's just like delves into like this little backwood cut Canadian hillbilly white trailer park trash type people, and you got all these characters. It's so great. It's a good show, a good diverse range of character throughout a show like that. Like, it's so raw and organic too. That's what makes it so good. Like, you don't see that. It's a show that is pure gold, because it really just it doesn't feel structured, really. Like, it's really hardcore. Like, it has its foundations, but it's like the structure is like, it can be whatever the hell it wants to be, and they've allowed that show to go that route. Like, just from like, hey, we're just gonna throw a little, you know, perspective here together of these different characters and this way of life, and people just love it, you know. That's what I think is so good, is that it's really just organic. There's like, man, we're just gonna film an episode and here's what's going down. And you know, over time, for like the movies and probably the later season, you know, there's definitely a well-defined like story.
Yeah,
like this episode, we want to do this.
There has to be,
you know, as you get a little more professional with it. But that's what just. It had that spark that was just like, oh, this is awesome, because you've never seen anything like Trailer Park Boys. Right. It's just
it's filmed like a real show. Well, I mean, they kind of
touch upon elements that you never, you know, that are actually offensive in ways of like, these guys are just smoking drugs and you know marijuana,
screwing people over
and making hash and doing all this goop, because they're trying to hustle and make their way in the world. So they're trying to do things behind, you know, the trailer park supervisor, Jim Leahy, who actually, rest in peace, because that guy just passed away, not too long ago.
He did?
Yeah, the guy, I don't know how long ago it was. Maybe
the actor?
Yeah, the actor that played Jim Leahy.
I had no idea.
Let me look it up real quick.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it'll show on IMDb because he's on there.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
Wasn't from alcoholism, was he? He wasn't really an alcoholic in real life, was he?
I'm not 100% sure. He was getting up there. He was in his early 60s, I believe. Let me look here real quick.
Is that getting up there? I hope not.
Well, I mean, I don't know, dude. Yeah, it's just however, sometimes the body just gives out at a certain age. I don't know. Obviously, there's variables, you know, things you've done in life, you know, taking a toll on your body.
Right.
Not good health, proper diet, no exercise, drinking. Like, that's a big one. Like, I think like of Kay's uncle when I think of that, because, you know, guy's awesome person. He's a cool guy, you know. He's lived a crazy life, had a cool experiences. I've heard so many awesome stories. Amazing human. But he has that one thing that's kind of just that drinking, dude.
He just goes,
it's on a consistent basis. That's the problem.
well, he just goes to that level too. He loses his, like, he gets so drunk that he pisses himself, and
it's Kay was telling me
it's fucking.
It is rough, and he was like,
it goes off the deep end.
He said, "Motherfucker didn't know who I was."
Just the other day. Oh my
Motherfucker got
God.
so goddamn drunk that he didn't know who his own nephew was.
Oh my God, and he sees them all the time. That's crazy.
That's dude,
a drunk.
I'm telling you, dude.
That is a drunk.
I've been to a state of mind like that before.
Where you can't remember people? I've never been in that.
When you get to a blackout state,
I never blacked out.
Your body's just going. You're just like going, like you're doing your thing. And you're just, like, I've been in those party states where you're just looking for more shit to drink, and then you're just like roaming around, and you're just kind of like in this state of mind where everything's almost like you're just on autopilot almost. And sometimes when you get to that, I've seen fucking people just sitting there, just like slurring their speech.
It's usually like heroin or something.
No,
see, like heroin addicts yelling on the street. Yeah. Dude, there's this Mexican guy that sits out. There's this Mexican guy that sits outside of our apartment. I've heard him do it twice, and he just starts. He constantly says, I think he just says "fuck your mother" over and over in Spanish, like
or something.
Chingue de madre or something like that. And he just fucking goes off, dude. And it's like 11 o'clock at night, and he just sounds like the angriest Mexican dude. And I went out there.
How old is he?
I don't know. I went out there to recycle, and I didn't know he was out there because he hadn't started yelling yet. And I went out the door, and I just started hearing him yell. And I walked right past him, and like as I walked past him with right on the corner as I walked past.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because you can hear that. You're right.
And it's nighttime, and it's just me, and then there's him. But I'm so much bigger than him that like I walked by, and he stopped yelling. He didn't like say anything.
Kind of just like.
And then I was kind of like sketch. I was like, I'm gonna watch my back because this guy could just fucking freak out on me, dude.
You never know. You gotta always be aware, dude. I tell people all the time, I'm like, if you're rolling around with a few friends, cool, you're good. You know, for the most part.
That's probably heroin.
But if you're fucking roaming around by yourself in like areas that just might seem slightly sketch, and you see people, you gotta keep your fucking eyes peeled.
Yeah.
Have a little higher sense of awareness. Don't be just like on your smartphone. Just like,
There's
on Instagram or something.
They say
going crazy.
They say the best way to walk through an area like that is always with your head up. 100%. Like you're confident.
Yes.
You are absolutely confident. I
see a lot of people.
You can't look like a fucking coward. You can't look weak. You can't look anything like that. You have to walk with like you got somewhere to go.
And that's what almost brings me back to when I was talking about that
self-preservation,
guy on the Max.
Dude.
That guy on the Max was almost shriveled, like up in himself, like sitting here like with his head down like this.
He's probably so weak.
He doesn't walk with his, you see those people with that level of confidence in the societal structure. They'll do that. Then you'll see people who don't even. I mean, there's a lot of people nowadays looking down at their phone,
right.
Which I think is goofy when you're walking around an area with cars going by and
I know
people aren't paying attention.
I hear people cross the street.
People have been hit by the Max because of it. Yeah. I'm pretty sure somebody is crossing and just wasn't
probably
paying attention.
Well, they definitely have listening to music. That's why they have that.
Oh,
that's why they have that stupid sign that says Don't die by metal from listening to metal or something like that.
They're trying to throw a little catchphrase in there.
Which, it makes sense, but I'm sure they probably ran someone over who maybe after they ran the person over, when they went up to the headphones, the music was still playing, and maybe it was metal music, and they were like, oh, this is why the guy didn't fucking see the Max. It's because he was listening to metal.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true, but it makes me wonder why they'd have that slogan. Were they just trying to be creative or did something?
Well,
I know people have been hit by the Max multiple times. People, all the time in Portland, people are jumping in front of the Max, and there's Suicide Bridge.
I believe that it is from listening to that. It had to. Must have excuse me, had his volume up extremely high. And I've seen a lot of kids. There's a kid in class that used to sit in the classroom at high school. It was when I was in sophomore, junior year or something. And he would just always play his music in the little Apple EarPods, just super loud. Like, dude.
In class?
In class, once the teacher was done talking, he would, go into doing his work. after she would give her thing, here's your assignments, blah blah blah, break it down, and then everyone break into work, how you would do in like English class or whatever, or just social humanities, basically, whatever they call that.
Social studies.
Yeah, social studies. And so we would break into it, and then dude would have his headphones in, Apple EarPod, or just the old school Apple headphones, and would just have them on full blast.
They helped him study.
Yeah, but I'm telling you.
But right, fucked everyone else up.
Well, dude,
no one else
he was
can study.
destroying his ears because he's sitting over there.
Oh yeah, just blaring.
And he can't hear anything around him. And then I'm sitting right here. You can hear dude's music from like a couple desks forward and over, like a couple desks. So he's like 6 feet away from me, and I can hear his shit. Like I can hear, just this savage heavy metal shit. He's like whatever he's listening to, but. That's definitely a good way to get yourself killed, is walking around through music full blast. Yeah. And then, that's probably what happened in the dude's case. He was so into his music that, and if it was metal, which is why they probably came up with that catchphrase.
Potentially, yeah.
Is because he was just bumping some music that's so blaring and loud.
I think overall,
that
too.
You tune out your environment,
Well, I think people tune out their environment too much, I notice.
Yeah.
I get mad
100%.
walking on, like, the street and stuff because people are on their phones or they're just not aware. Like, people in cars, when you're crossing the street, they're not aware to, like, look both directions. They look, because they're turning to the left or the right, they look the opposite direction, and then they start going, and then when they start to go, they finally look the other way, and then you're right there, and it's like, why didn't you fucking, like, how do you not know?
Why don't you give yourself a little bit of time?
Yeah, how do you not know?
Like, society, I understand people are trying to, get from point A to point B, and it's already as clustered as it is with, freeways and the, it's just...
Portland, it's shitty.
And, the population's growing, and it's just, cities are where that's going to be clustered, and it's just, but people need to slow down in that mental aspect of your car moves fast enough, you're in the city, slow down a little bit, and pay attention to what's going on in your environment before you move forward. And then people aren't going to... It goes both ways. Like, you yourself
as
pedestrian has to be aware of, I can't just pop out there. I got to fucking make myself awareness between me and maybe this person over here and be like, okay. And then give it a little hand signal, let people know what's going on.
Yeah. Portland people don't do that. They're so pretentious.
And I always, when I'm rolling around places,
they're entitled to cross the street.
I'm even, in that sense, I like to be a little bit friendly. If somebody's willing to acknowledge, if somebody's rolling by, I'll just kind of give them a head nod, like, acknowledge them and, not be awkward, obviously. And, in society, you want to kind of show that, yourself is just normal.
You can interact socially.
You can interact normally and not be like, I kind of like do some weird head shit. Like you're just, no, I'm sorry guys, I just can't look at you or something. I don't know. I see a lot of that.
Some people do that.
And, I can understand the way the world over time has almost kind of imprinted that on people of like,
well, because we're not interacting socially.
You notice over in Europe's had a lot more time to progress as a societal structure. So people over in European countries, Britain, England, obviously there's a wide, diverse group, but overall they're more self-expressive and open about all kinds of stuff.
They communicate better.
The community is tighter in those parts of the world than I think America is as a whole.
Oh yeah, America's huge.
It's so just the melting pot, and it's so clusterfucked, and there's just a level of corruption in the government,
right?
And all trickles down. And
you imagine places like China and India, like how big they are, and they have like 1 billion people. We have 350 million. They have like 1 billion.
Yeah, we're getting up there. I think we're like approaching.
And they're smaller. Well, China's big as fuck, but
China is. You think China's massive until you look at the real map. The globe is off. The what's it called? The Kaner projection map or whatever it is. I can't remember the exact name. I know I'm quoting it wrong right now, but there's this.
I know what you're talking about.
Basically the standard map that we use is completely off.
The size
proportions. So when you actually look at China, dude, not only is China not even that big compared to, like, say, Africa.
Africa's huge.
No one even understands that, the scale of that. But I was going to say Russia is I think, has more land mass than China does.
Probably.
You
could fit America.
It is up there. It's not as, like, crazy when they flatten out on Caner projection
I
map.
think you
It's
can
like,
fit America, China, and South America into Africa.
yeah, they showed a few more too. They tucked in a little bit of like Britain and like like
Yeah.
England. They threw in
Oh
some
my
smaller.
God.
These are
That's
that
crazy.
dude. Yeah, it's a crazy
Imagine this.
perspective.
The Sahara
Literally,
Desert
it's
is the size
crazy
of America.
perspective.
I think the Sahara
Yeah,
Desert is like the size
yeah,
of
because
America.
I think that's where they put it was right there, and then they folded China right here off to the right.
Could you imagine getting lost in the Sahara Desert, dude? You'd be fucked.
Oh, dude,
You're
if you
fucked.
somehow ended up out there, dude, you would just slowly.
You're so screwed. There's no way you're gonna survive getting lost in the
with
Sahara
very
Desert.
little, with very little, and that's extreme desertification too. That's like
Desertification.
that's totally what that is. That's to the point of there's nothing.
Become
there.
bloated, you start hallucinating, then you pass out because you're all fucked up, and then you just get sizzled by the sun and start rotting.
Yeah, you just cook and dehydrate out. If there'd be a few creatures that come
Some
along,
gases with liquids would start
some
secreting
creatures,
from
some
you.
desert things that creep under the ground and move along. But that's what we need to start doing in the future, because obviously there is this level of there's that right around the equator between the two meridians on the planet. There's the
Longitude and latitude?
no, that's the direction.
Oh, the prime meridian.
The prime meridian, and then the one below.
Fucking, yeah.
That basically is where the tilt ends up at on the axis of the Earth. It ends on the lower one, and then as it changes. But basically, all in that area, it's super hot. So when you look on the map and the heat structure of the map,
right.
you see that's why those areas are so desertified. And you look at South America, it's luscious. It's just below, but still partially at the top of it's a little bit into the equator. But it's really luscious.
Earth's own habitable zone.
Yeah, and so everywhere else is like green and legit. So over time, if we can slowly start terraforming our own deserts, we need to start. Planting in the where the edges of the desert start. We need to start pushing herds of cattle. Because I was watching this epic TED talk where they're breaking down how moving cattle around completely changes the environment and allows growth. We need to start moving into the deserts with these herd animals and start planting and growing the environment.
Yeah.
And these herd animals create this cycle of matting down the grass so the carbon traps in the atmosphere, allowing for nutrients to be absorbed and then to be replenished to grow the trees and the plants and the environment.
Right.
And then you start bringing in, and then that allows for the diversity of life to grow with like birds and small mammals and everything. So now you're creating an ecosystem just by moving animals around, literally big ass herd animals. And we do this thing with mass meat production of just sticking these herd animals in like fucking cages and then plumping them full of like grain and garbage and all these hormones and growing this shitty ass meat that fucks everything up, when we could just be taking these herd animals, these cattle, and sending them out into these big environments by the millions and fucking have them move like they naturally would through the environment. And they were showing a study where they did it in certain desertified areas. 2 years later, the fucking place looked like it wasn't even desert. Had trees and fucking big grass growing, and I was seriously blown away.
God.
This could completely change our planet as far as like helping trap the carbon, because we're slowly moving away from using carbon and fossil fuels, which is 100% the way we need to be going. But they can trap more carbon if we have more plant life to do so.
Right.
So we need to start taking that next step of using whatever technologies we can have. Use drone technologies to surface and scan the areas, and maybe it's at some point
it's a genius
lay out some type of nutrients across the environment with large drones that can spray this liquid stuff over the environment. They were showing this way that they can take this type of mud material, and all they have to do is add
It's got like
a couple things, and then it has like all the nutrients that it needs, and you just put it into the desert, and then it'll change the entire desert environment, allowing for microbes to come in this diverse group of bacteria. And not only bacteria, like Jim Stamets. Is that his name, right?
Oh, Jim Stamets, or the mushroom guy?
Yes.
Is it Jim?
I feel like
Bob Stamets?
I feel like I'm throwing it off here.
Rob Stamets?
Like he talked about how you have the mycelium, the fungi, inside of these like deep levels of how they hold everything on the micro level, together.
Oh yeah,
Like
the
how the
network.
mycelium, how like he was almost getting on that level of saying the reason that we exist as humans is because of fungi. Fungi like created these organisms to have this
We had like the perfect circumstance.
This deep level of like interconnection between how we consume nutrients and feed the environment, and it lives and produces these, different nutrients and oxygenated things and through plants. And I don't know, it's just mind-blowing to think of how
it is, dude.
Like he really gave me this like
Paul Stamets,
yes,
got it.
Yeah, check out his YouTube if you can, because that is seriously one of the best. When I think of like Joe Rogan's podcast, which is an amazing podcast, that's like one of the best ones I've ever seen. But for some reason, I love those deeper level conversations. Like I love the ones where they're just having some fun talking about whatever. He gets on those comedians, and that's fun too.
Yeah.
But when he brings on guys like Paul Stamets and
Sam Harris,
Randall Carlson, Jordan Peterson, the psychologist. That dude's just amazing. I was like, dude, I don't need to have a psychologist. This is it right here. I go on YouTube and I've watched probably a few hundred hours of his lectures and videos on YouTube.
Really?
Just over like a period of the past like month or so.
Wow.
A couple months, seriously, because I just got into it.
It's pretty enlightening.
He is.
Definitely says things.
I've seriously seen so much of his stuff that I've learned so much about these controversies that are going on in societal structure of the
Marxism,
the gender classification of what is sexual identity, gender expression.
Right.
You know what I mean? And all these different aspects of it. And he was debating this woman because they passed the bill in Canada, which was
C16,
C16, which he has studied like up on, and and obviously he knows with his deep level of psychology, and he was just breaking down how they're trying to separate those things instead of realizing that they're all part of the same thing, and kind of overclassifying things that don't need to be to make it so that I don't know. It's an interesting thing because I'm still new to understanding it. It's not based on
science. It's not based on science. We're like drifting away from actual science.
Isn't it interesting that it makes sense that we're at this point when you look back at like, we had like racism back in the past, as Americans coming here, obviously we were diverse white groups, of Caucasian people coming over here.
Europeans.
And then we had, African Americans and then Hispanics and Asians. And so we had as a society to get used to those things. And over time, you had like the race riots and the whole controversy in the 50s and 60s.
Jim Crow.
Probably even in the 40s as well. Yeah. And so you can just see that was at that point. And then like women got to vote. Women had more, you've seen this like societal growth of like that. And now we're at this point where it's like people want to be.
Well, they think they're growing. That's the problem.
Yeah, but
they think they're evolving. They think by doing these things that they're evolving and they're being enlightened. And why don't we evolve as a society by doing these things? And it's like, that's not evolving as a society. That's actually toxic for the society.
Like
you can't
the expressive
break this
aspect
down.
is fine if you want to express yourself how you want and like go by a particular name or any of these things. Like there's certain aspects of it where it's like I can understand where they're coming from, but there's those groups of people who are just so blind by like pure emotion. It's that emotion overriding the judgment thing again.
Well, it's objective reality. They're denying objective reality.
Yeah, because they want to live in that like literally like pretty much a fantasy state of mind.
There's like a 50-year-old guy that says he identifies as a 6-year-old girl.
See, that's where you're getting into a whole, like I'm talking about, that's that
and people
extreme.
Are like, oh, go guy, go
extreme.
guy. It's like, no, you can't be. I mean, you're not, you're not a 6-year-old girl. You're like 55 and you have children and you're married, dude. What are you doing? Why are you teaching your kids weird stuff? You're teaching kids weird
what's
messages.
Next though? Are we going to classify as like prehistoric animals? Like, oh, hey, I'm a T-Rex, dude. You got to make sure that you call me Rex, bro. I'm a T-Rex.
But that's the problem. I mean, that's an over-exaggeration, but that's the problem.
Literally, there's getting on some weird levels, bro. I swear you can probably go on YouTube and find some weird ass.
Yeah, there's astral gendered. There's all sorts of shit.
And it just blows my mind. It's like people are just taking and creating these subcategories for something that is just literally basically an acceptance of self-expression.
Yeah, like I don't want to control what anybody does. I want.
Of course not. You
But
know,
at the
you
same
want them to
time,
have that freedom, but if
there's
it,
nothing this has nothing to do with controlling them. It's just like you're messing with society and you're messing with the whole structure by trying to. I don't even know what's going on.
I agree with Jordan Peterson about it is there doesn't need to be some like law passed that
for certain
changes
speech.
Yeah, that's
compelled
getting
speech
like
or
he
whatever.
says, that's getting into some Marxism level ideas. And I don't know a whole lot about Marxism and
That goes back to Owen Benjamin.
socialism.
People not
I know
knowing.
some very basic aspects of that, but
Right.
from what I've heard on him, he is a damn near expert on the way that the Russians, and he's like studied up on Marxism and the whole communist idea, and he understands
The
that
groupthink.
socialism and the whole. He's read a ton of books on all those guys. Mao, he understands like the leader in China and how he ran his thing.
Well,
So
that's the problem is everyone is in this weird groupthink where they're trying to force you into thinking a certain way, and if you don't think that certain
don't
way,
conform. Literally, like
well,
this is.
but that's the yes, don't conform. You be an individual. You don't have. I mean, you're part of a group, obviously, a collective, but also
Yeah,
be an
there's that
individual. But don't.
deep-
But be able to recognize objective reality and be able to recognize when people are bullshit, and think thoroughly through it, and not just go with it because your friends do or this side does. Like, I feel like a huge problem is people aren't looking at both sides of the spectrum. They don't research both sides. They research one side. I mean, Owen Benjamin makes a good point. He talks about stand-up comedy because he's a stand-up comedian.
Owen Benjamin.
Okay. And he references Jimmy Kimmel, and he references Trevor Noah, and he just kind of says, like, he goes, look at all these late night TV people. They're all
I've
on
seen
the left.
pattern. I've seen the pattern.
They're all on the left. They all
100%.
believe in the same thing. He goes, Jimmy Kimmel, he goes, they're all pussies. They're all pussies who don't care about, like they try to pretend that they have all this sympathy for, like, oh, don't use these certain words, or, and they're kind of like I like Trevor Noah, I don't like Jimmy Kimmel. I never have liked Jimmy Kimmel.
I don't like Jimmy Kimmel really
But
either,
I like
just
Trevor
because
Noah,
he
but-
goes a little like you can tell he's definitely biased on that side of like
Yeah, they're so, but all of them are so
conforming
biased.
to what he's supposed to tell the society in a sense.
But that's that
And
groupthink I'm
bas-
talking about.
it is that, like,
they
if he
fall
doesn't
into
ta-
groupthink, and they all
100%.
think the same, and nobody looks to any ideas on the right. Like people like Ben Shapiro, people call him a Nazi. It's like he's
Oh my God.
He's Jewish. And like,
I know, right? You see him wearing the yarmulke, bro.
He's highly intelligent. It's just how he delivers is what people don't like. And it's like, if we started seeing more conservative talk show hosts, like conservative Stephen Colbert's and conservative Trevor Noah's, if there was a balance on TV,
It doesn't seem like there is.
There
It
is
seems
no
like-
balance.
it
It's
seems
all
like there's,
left. It's all left.
100%. Here's definitely, like you said, far left.
And that's objective reality.
All objective reality into that perspective, like they're being fed.
People will deny this, though. They'll deny it.
Oh, they will, because
That's all
But
they
like
do,
I
they
said,
deny it.
they can't think on that deeper level, and we got to start teaching people in society to start thinking on that deeper level. And here's the only two people that I like that I see out of all those talk show guys is two people, and one who I've been a diehard fan of like a long time, just because the dude is so organic and natural, and that'd be Conan O'Brien.
Conan.
From what I've seen, Conan, he has fun with his show. He's a goofy dude, does some wacky stuff. Sometimes he'll do some like skit videos.
Yeah, he does like
he walking around the community,
the gamer
and, like,
things and stuff.
and yeah, so he's got a little bit of that deeper level of self-expression. Have fun with it. Don't take life too serious, but still have a fun, good, informative show with different perspectives of people's lives. That's really what these talk shows are doing. Taking actors, celebrities.
And if someone on the right shows up on the
filmmakers.
left show, they boo them and like they give them shit, and the crowd is like, racist.
Right? Yeah. They do kind of have a little bit of. You can see it.
It's like this automatic defense. They
here's
put them in a
number-
box. You're
Yeah.
racist. Like
Hold them in.
that's the defense. Once they figure out you're not on their team or that you don't have the same opinion as them, they're gonna start being like, oh,
gonna
well,
come
he
at
must be
you.
a racist then, or he must be this then. Oh, what a misogynist, or what a just part of this. It's like, no, like we just don't have the same opinion on this
That's
particular
true.
subject. Just because we don't agree on one thing doesn't you're broad.
I know you
you're
definitely
broadening.
see that group that kind of comes at you like that, and
It annoys. I don't even understand it though. Like when people.
it's like you said, it's that society. I call it how about we just straight up just call it what it is? Hive mind.
But why do people have to like
Hive
identify
mind thinking.
themselves as like well, as a, you know, as a gay man, I do. It's like I don't even think of that stuff. Like when people bring that up, like as oh, this guy as an African American, this and this
You know
happens.
what? I've thought of
Why
that
do we
as
even have
well.
to? Why do we even have to say that? Why do we even have to throw color into the sentence or what
that's,
you are?
That's what Morgan Freeman straight
That's
up
what
said.
confuses
That's
me.
what Morgan Freeman said. He goes, he was talking with
I don't get it.
he was talking with the late great Charlie Rose, who does that. I think he did 60 Seconds, but he does like that. I think he has his own thing through CBS or something where he did interviews with people. You know, where he'd sit
I think I
down
know
and
what you're
have
talking about.
He's that
where
older,
he's like, stop
older
talking about it.
older gentleman. Yeah,
How do you stop racism? And it goes, stop talking about it.
Yeah, literally, like just take it out of the perspective.
Yeah, why?
Because
Yeah,
I understand why we do it, because as human beings, we use pattern recognition, so we label things in the environment through whether it's societal hierarchy structure, like you got your alpha, and you got different levels of how you can identify those things in society. And so I think as that, the first thing we look at as different humans, we realize we have, a white tone pale to our skin compared to these other people who don't have a difference, so they see that difference. And
that's just
that
the
group
reality.
mentality of primal survival
Yes.
instinct came from where we needed to protect our clan, so that this group who we don't know,
It's like
who is
prison.
somebody else.
It's like prison. They
Yeah,
say
and
even
we
if you're not
cannot be
racist,
that
stay with
nowadays.
your same skin color.
Oh, do you know Ethan Phillips? You actually got to meet both of them.
Oh yeah, I saw that picture.
I was like, whoa, you got to meet Bubbles, and I wonder if he met.
You got to meet. Didn't he meet Randy and Mr. Leahy?
Maybe it was Randy. Yeah, it was Randy and Mr. Leahy. I think, was it just them? Though?
I think it was just
wonder,
them.
That would have been epic to see.
I think
the
it was
whole
just
gang,
them.
Though. That's crazy.
Maybe they were at like a Comic-Con or something like that.
The guy that plays Bubbles, Mike Smith. Where here he is, John Dunsworth.
John Dunsworth. How did he?
It says he passed away. Yeah, so it was on October 16th of 2017.
Wow.
Yeah, he was age 71. Dude was doing pretty good at
How
his
did
age.
How did he pass? Does it say?
Let's find out here real quick. Actually, that'd be a good one to kind of break down.
Man, R.I.P.
Straight up, dude was just amazing.
That's probably why maybe
Played an amazing character in the show. Was probably didn't really obviously know him on how he is as a real person, but dude was fucking.
he was hilarious.
Just hilarious, dude. Part of a great show, and sucks that he didn't live as long as he probably lived a good life though. So
Probably. I would assume. Probably made some good money from Trailer Park Boys.
that was probably his prime time of his life doing Trailer Park Boys, I'd have to say though. Just that level of family and the production value of it.
Fun
And, they know those people, and it's like there's that level of when you're making that kind of an indie film, it's like you're using like all of your friends and people to put this thing together, and so it has that even more. And if they can last, that's like totally has that family vibe to it,
Yeah.
which is like that's hard to come by, because most movies are just like, oh, this guy for script, this guy for directing, and then some random actors from throughout the world that bring them together, and like for instance the Avengers. That's why the Avengers movies are so cool. It's because it's the same group of actors together as a family. They come back.
Imagine signing that contract.
Dude.
Going back in whatever year, 2005, whenever the fuck they probably started production,
man.
and just like, all right, I'll be doing this for the next 18 years of my life, or 13 years of my life, or whatever.
Oh, dude, it makes me think of.
That's just crazy.
Makes me think of the guy who plays Tony Stark.
Oh yeah.
What's his name?
Oh my gosh.
Drawing a blank right now. What's his
Robert
name?
Downey Jr.
RDJ. Robert Downey Jr. He is getting a ridiculous check
I bet.
for both of these coming up.
He kind of
Avengers,
protested it though, didn't he? Didn't he say
Avengers Infinity War Part 1 and 2. He's getting 50 mil a piece. So he's getting $100 million for these two films that were shot at the same time, but are going to be put into obviously a Part 1 and Part 2. Dude.
I know he had a thing where
like,
he was
what?
He was paid most, and he was saying that he wanted it to be divvied up between everybody.
Yeah,
fairly
I think that's
or something.
a bit ridiculous.
Like he protested.
I would donate so much money to some. Actually, I would donate,
which is great.
I would donate, but I wouldn't donate so much I would donate. I would create things more.
Like
Like
yeah,
I would
like
start helping. I would take the use
the
technology.
Department of Underdeveloped
I would create
Ferrets
the company Harness
Recovery.
Energy.
The what?
Harness Energy.
That's so good.
And our
That's so
catchphrase would be Harness the Power. And it would be an energy company all based on solar with like Tesla Powerwall type technology.
Genius, dude.
All about energy storage and basically doing energy within the inner city to create it all sustainably and make it work to where it would not
That's
waste.
genius.
So solar.
Harness the power.
Harness the power.
Bob Harness in Harness.
And it would just be like this explosion of energy. Just
And then
shit would cluster and then it would liquefy back up into like the logo and like harness energy, dude. How sick would that be, bro? And then something would plug in like fucking and just like go
the
right
Matrix.
Like yeah.
No, it would just be that the logo would be like this, but it'd be like a head on the side, and it would be like you'd see a thing like it would attach, and then the camera would start to rotate around the head, and as it's attaching, like the mouth would open. The guy would be like,
I like how I did.
Would come out of
whoa,
his mouth.
that's intense. That reminds me of some anime cartoon where it's like some brutal shit like that.
And he's making like this digital noise out of his mouth, like robotic. Like
you know the movie Lucy?
Wasn't that Scarlett Johansson?
Scarlett Johansson.
I don't think I saw it, but I know what you're talking about.
It's fucking kick-ass, dude. She does this one moment in the movie where I'm telling you, bro, it touches on what I love about science fiction films. And it's based on this anime, which I can't remember the exact name of it, but you have to see the anime. Kay and I have seen this. It's the most brutal, one of the most brutal animes I have ever seen.
Just bloody.
Yeah. Just because you see this scene where the character, which Scarlett Johansson is portraying, which is Lucy.
Is it like a Kill Bill-esque?
Dude, it's so brutal. She wakes up and she's attached in this machine and she breaks free from it. And she's a scientific experiment deep down in this lab. And she ends up having telekinetic powers because her mind evolves, or she evolves something to some way where she can use her telepathy to control her environment on a godlike level practically. And so she has this helmet that is covering her face, tuning out all her senses, and she's literally using pure third eye mind state.
Wow.
And completely controlling her environment. And everyone's trying to stop her. They're trying to bring in people. She just breaks through the doors or just opens them on her own with her own thought, moves through. She's just walking casually and she's completely nude. So she's like, just got this epic helmet that's gnarly looking, like bolted onto her dome. And she's just like, looks like this innocent.
Oh, I've seen that anime.
Yeah, what is that called? Because that's
it's
what
called.
Lucy's based on.
That's what I was thinking. I was like,
Dude,
I wonder if he's talking
so...
about, because that was the most brutal one I've ever seen.
Dude, it literally is. I used to
and
think
she
Ninja
washes
Scroll
up on
was
shore.
brutal,
She washes up on shore, and that guy finds her and shit.
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's oh, dude, it's called
I'll just type it in on here. Let's see.
Yeah, it's a brutal anime. It's fucking sweet. She's in a lab. I remember that, and she only says like one word or something like that. And she like doesn't kill this guy, and
yeah, she has some. They go pretty deep into it. It's called Elfen Lied.
Yeah, Elfen Lied.
Yeah, Elfen Lied. Super cool animation, or just anime
brutal,
and animation, I should say, because it is cool. The style, I like that style of art. They go deep on the stories. That's why I like anime cartoons a little more than most. Yeah, there's a lot of memorable.
Well, and
ones
they go on.
You know, for their comedy and level of stuff, but it's just like those anime sometimes go on, touch some really cool perspective with the stories. Like you see, that science fiction is so fun, and she did a good job at portraying it. But that brings me back to my point. There's this one part in the movie Lucy where she is scrolling through time. She's in downtown. You know that famous shot they always show. Times Square in New York, and you can see the old school building that's been there forever. It's evolved over time, obviously. It's gotten crazy. She can scroll through time like a fucking flip book, and she's turning back the clock, and she can see it like augmented reality right in front of her face. She's seeing the construction of New York City, and she swipes it backwards, and it starts going hella fast, and it's like going back into. Then she pauses it, and it's like back in the 1920s when we still had horse and buggy, cobblestone roads, and the city was barely developed. Then she goes back even further, and it's like before the city was even growth, and it shows like going back in time.
Whoa.
And then she's like wanting to go even further because her mind. She's literally at this point in the movie Lucy. It's about using 100% of your brain power. And saying that it plays off that idea of we only use like a certain percentage of our overall brain capacity, and she has fully unlocked her brain, like almost spiritually awakened. And in the movie, when she spiritually awakens, and she's totally not even there, she's not even really in New York, she's just so powerful in her mind that she can sit right in the chair in the movie, and she's just like literally going into that level just through her mind, and she's scrolling back through time, and she goes so far back that she becomes, and it also plays off, this is so epic that I'm building up to this moment because it ties this all together. She goes back and learns so much knowledge. She scrolls all the way back. She sees the beginning of the Big Bang, everything. She goes that far back. She pretty much is in nothingness. She goes so far back, she becomes the singularity and merges with everything. Becomes hive mind and controls everything. That movie is bananas, dude. Like on its deeper level, it literally, she's like, and time is just going back, and you're seeing the Big Bang and all this forming of like stars, and it's just like,
whoa.
It's one of the coolest little scenes. It reminds me of that, like there's these little gold scenes that some of these science fiction movies have, where they're just like, that is one of the most amazing like scenes, the way they just structured it, and it gets your perspective of like, whoa, just the passing of time. We don't really we can think about like, oh, that happened in the 1930s,
like Interstellar,
that happened in the 1800s. You can think about the Roman times and imagine, but you can't
comprehend the actual time because we live so short. Even 1,000 years is like,
I think
whoa.
That was 2,000 years ago, the Romans, height of their civilization, and you're just like, just died off, Like, it's crazy, just that way of life.
50 years into their rule, people were like, "This is it, is it." And now 2,000 years later, here's us, and we're like, this is it.
We're seeing like this technological evolution, and it really, that movie, those scientific moments in those movies where they really touch on the deeper level of tying in like philosophy and science in together to where you understand it and can get that perspective.
Yeah, I love those.
Like parts. For instance, time. One of the best things is slowing down time, like how she's flipping like through a time book and going back at her own pace. In the movie X-Men Days of Futures Past, Quicksilver, in that scene when they have to go get or they help Professor
I haven't seen that.
They go with Professor X, but it's not a big spoiler alert. It's just basically
it's okay.
It's not spoiler alert to anyone listening. It's not really that big of a part, but it's a really fun scene. That's why I like talking about it, because I've seen it like 3 or 4 times. But it was just whoever the conceptualized it and was like, we're gonna do this, is like bananas filmmaking. Just they had to tie everything together, CGI with motion cameras and just like all these effects, and they did it so well that it's just like pure gold in my opinion. That's what honestly. It doesn't what make the movie, but it is a big part of like what made the movie. And when they're going to James McAvoy, who plays Professor X, he goes.
Oh, the young Professor X. Yes, that's James McAvoy.
Yeah, James McAvoy. Okay. They go Quicksilver and Wolverine and Professor X go to help Magneto, Michael Fassbender's character. He plays Magneto in there. And he goes to help him escape from like the government puts him down in this deep underground fucking like holding facility, so that because he has the power to control metal, right? So they have to keep him. He's hidden in the Pentagon.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. He's underneath.
Yeah, he's under the ground in the Pentagon in this.
It's like this giant dome type
thing. Yeah.
Or no, it's like a big glass container, right? Or something.
Yeah, it's kind of like has this. It's similar, playing off of like the older films when they had.
Or maybe
like the older X-Men films.
I think I'm thinking of I'm thinking of that room where
Professor
X is that circular room with the ledge that goes down to the center, and he like gets in it.
Yeah, that's with Ian McKellen, and from the older films, that was like number 2, X-Men 2, or maybe they even show it in 1. I'm not sure, but he's being held up in there. Ian
McKellen. Oh yeah, he was Magneto.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I was thinking of who is it that plays? Yeah, he's locked up in there. That's right. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, we are thinking of the right thing. Okay, yeah, sorry, but got a little confused there. I was trying to put the two together because we're at the 2 different story arcs. But yeah, Michael Fassbender's trapped underneath the Pentagon because he killed JFK. He was trying to save JFK, but he moved the bullet with his mind, and it went. So they play off a little fun conspiracy, like throwing.
Was the magic bullet,
that
made the bullet go crazy.
Yeah, the magic. He was the one who controlled the magic bullet, and so it plays off that little funny history thing.
Oh my gosh!
So there was a real conspiracy, but they didn't want to let people know it was an X-Man who did. All this crazy. It's just like, but he was trying.
They told us.
He was trying to save JFK, and it didn't work out. So he ended up getting stuck down in deep prison underneath the Pentagon, just a mutant. He just got fucking
caught and
just thrown in the hole. But they need his help, so they go down there and they break him out, and then they end up in this kitchen, and all of a sudden all these security guards come in, they pull out their guns, and they have like these guns that don't have any metal in them, so he can't control anything, but the bullets are metal. So they can't like control the guns. But
I haven't seen it.
It's a pretty epic scene. But basically, Quicksilver comes in, and he just puts on his headphones, and then the music comes in, and it's the song. I forget who it's by, but it's "Time in a Bottle." It's like an old school song. That's
"Time in a Bottle."
If I had time in a bottle, I'd tell you what I'm gonna do. It's like old school,
I have no
it's
idea.
an acoustic song too, like on the guitar and everything. Really good old school song. But basically throws on the headphones, goes into the fucking zone, slows time down, and starts running around the wall in the place, like spinning really fast. And so in real life he's going like, so fast that time is slowing down. And he's just moving Quicksilver, running along the wall, and he's like, he's going through, and he's like fucking up all the dudes. So he's like moving the cop, making him punch himself, and then so when real time turns back, it'll be like, and like, so he basically slows down time, moves all these people's arms in different positions, like he's punching himself. Then he like moves the other guy's gun out of the way, and then he goes over to the bullets, and he like moves the bullets out of the way so they won't hit Wolverine and the other guys. And it's pretty cool, the whole scene, so they make sure that everyone doesn't die.
That's epic.
And he just slows down time, and then everything turns back to reality, and you see like all the people and they get all fucked up. He like samples some soup, because the whole when he slows down time and starts running around, everything erupts into the air, and the whole room just goes crazy because there's metal in the room for like cooking and everything. And I think Magneto like throws it like with his power, and then he slows down time, and it's just a crazy scene because he's running on the wall, and he like there's some soup flying up in the air that was cooked, and he's like samples it right out of the air because he's moving around so fast. He's just, and that song is just perfect for it too. It's like some old school acoustic song. That's where you hilarious. Can just like zone out to it. Like
those scenes are hilarious.
Just an amazing moment, for. And that'd be another state of mind. Imagine slowing down time and but you're moving so fast that time is standing practically still.
That'd be awesome.
That is a whole nother level, because that would be so weird that you could just do such a thing like that, just to see that. I don't know. That'd be just weird. You definitely rob a bank.
I would be doing a lot more.
You walk in, you're like, where'd all the money go?
You see him opening up the safe, and he'd be like, grab all the money.
I'll tell you what, you have a lot of time to get that safe open, because if you could move so fast, time stood still, you'd have
Right.
But even then, those bank vaults, some of these modern bank vaults are ridiculous. Like, to the point where you're not getting in there, bro.
No, it's thick.
Dude, like, what is it like? Some of them they've shown on these shows and like other documentaries where they've talked about that security. I think I watched one back in the day, but
yeah, you ain't
bro, there's like 8 levels of security protocol to get in through the door.
Yeah, you're not.
Like biometric, retina, a card, a fucking like couple codes, and a fucking mechanism, and
a giant
door. Dude, and it was so thick too. It's literally like 4 feet fucking thick.
Yeah.
Of just layers of steel and metal, and they got those big rebars that like go up.
Right, and they
pop
lock
out
it
in all 360-degree angles, and you're like, bro, you ain't getting in that vault.
Imagine getting locked in there. How terrifying that would be.
And they don't open it very often, so you're just in the vault petty for like, oh, dude, didn't know dude was in there for like 3, couldn't hear him, No, they have cameras.
Yeah.
I forgot. They always have security cams in the bank vault so you can see inside it.
That
So
would
I
make
guess that
sense.
rules that out. But yeah, if somehow there's.
Fucking hungry, dude.
I wonder if anyone's ever died from.
I fucking hope not, dude.
Like you go into one of them old abandoned buildings and
That
dude
sounds
just
like a
in
terrible
Cuddy was
death.
just stuck in there and all the pile of gold. He's like, couldn't believe it.
They go in there. It looks like you're like Nori from the inside the.
What is that?
Is it Nori that was inside of the lair on the Fellowship in the Mines of Moria when they find the.
Oh,
It's Nori's holding the book and
It
Gandalf
is,
grabs
huh?
the book and then he opens it.
is that
and he's
who
like,
it is?
Yeah, I
They're
think it's
the grandson of.
It's the really goofy,
the-
the goofy one from The Hobbit.
Isn't it Gimli's grandfather?
Gloin is the one in the grave
Okay,
that he's sad about.
that's right.
Or no, that was
There's Oin and Gloin.
or no, it wasn't Gloin. It was what's his face from or maybe it was Gloin. It's the bearded guy from that was really close to Thorin Oakenshield.
So that
That's him.
That's
Balin.
Balin, yeah.
It's Balin. Balin's
There's
grave.
Balin
I
and
believe.
Dwalin, Oin Gloin,
Fili
Fili
Kili,
Kili,
Bomber,
Bifur and Bomber.
Bifur and Bomber. Yeah,
Or Bifur and Bomber, yep.
there's a lot.
And then there's that's all the
And there's
dwarves. Oh, then
Thorin.
Thorin is the ninth of them, and then you got Gandalf, and then Bilbo.
There's a lot of
That's a big
motherfuckers.
company of people just rolling around. That's a good movie. I haven't seen that in a
But
while.
that's what the guy looks like in the safe, just like clenching on
Oh,
money, just
just-
like dried up.
like all the gold. He's like got a few bars. He's just like he's ready to go. He's got the bars. Just
we should
what is that?
probably wrap this up.
all right.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're getting done.
just because
right?
it's midday. It's
Yeah.
it's almost 3:30.
New Year's Eve, moving into 2018.
Yeah,
Cut with a new thing here, state of mind. Delving into the states of minds of people and the way they think.
we gotta stop plugging the name though, Bob.
What?
State of mind.
Oh, dude. I just randomly get to the point where I just almost think of it, and so I'm
Right.
like,
I know it is kind of hard. I don't want.
That's a state
I'm
of
not
mind,
going to use
you know?
it as much. I'm not going to be like his state of mind.
Oh,
Like,
no doubt.
Imagine the state of mind.
oh, no doubt.
Hey, my state of mind.
I don't know.
It's
we
right
yeah,
here. We keep saying
We
it.
just were going off into these ideas, and some of them I was just like, man, that's an interesting state of mind.
No.
You know, it almost
What else
was
are you
like,
going to say? Like,
yeah.
that's an interesting
well,
way
also-
of thinking.
Yeah, I'll say that sometimes, like way of thinking or looking at something, perspective, that thing. But it's kind of fun to use that
Objective
because
reality.
I guess that's what we're calling it. So it kind of is fun in some ways. Yeah, I'm definitely not going to overdo it to where it's
Right.
like, okay, you said it like 50 times in the show, bro. Calm down. I'll throw it in, plug it. You got to plug it a little bit, Thanks, guys, for tuning into this episode of State of Mind. Hope you enjoyed this one. Please leave us a comment down below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon right next to it so you can be notified next time we upload a new episode. And until then, keep your brain entertained.